Hogwarts Legacy has a very big problem and bad news that has only happened in the last 48 hours that has not yet been addressed officially by WB Games, and it can be very detrimental to your game, so bad that you might need to stop playing Hogwarts Legacy right now, so be very careful. Now, I'll be going over that in the video, but Xbox have also fired some not so friendly shots specifically at Hogwarts Legacy and their exclusive deal with PlayStation, which may change the shape of the future quite a bit for the game. So we have tons to get through, so let's dive into it. Now, this is by far something that I never wanted to see happen, especially with Hogwarts Legacy, but unfortunately it has. And that is that players are experiencing their save files just vanishing, aka going corrupt. Now, I'm going to assume that most of you are like me and will just keep playing the game and basically rely on the autosave feature. And well, the bad news is that people's autosave is not working and they are losing hours and hours worth of progression, which is enough to put a bad taste in anyone's mouth, of course. Now, this has been reported to WB's support team by tons of people on Twitter, to which they've basically just come back saying that it's being looked into. But the bad news here is it's not just the autosave feature that is not working. Of course, the next practical step would be to manually save the game, and well, you cannot manually save your game either. Now, of course, this is not happening to every single person, but it is happening for a huge chunk of players, and the worst part of it all is it does mean that you may need to stop playing Hogwarts Legacy right now, because if you cannot manually save the game and your autosave is not working, you are going to have to literally leave the game on with the hope that it randomly autosaves. But if this has not yet happened to you, then my only advice is to save your game manually every time you discover something new in the game, complete a quest, or basically do anything in the game that took a while to do and that ideally you don't want to do again anytime soon. Now, strangely enough, this is more predominantly happening to Xbox players, though it is still happening on the PlayStation, but it does lead to the next thing I want to talk about, which is Xbox firing some not so friendly shots specifically at Hogwarts Legacy. Now, Phil Spencer says that Xbox won't, and I quote, "pull a Hogwarts Legacy with Call of Duty." Now, what does that actually mean? Well, they have stated that if Xbox successfully acquires Activision Blizzard and the Call of Duty franchise, then PlayStation gamers don't have to worry about missing out on any content. Now, console exclusivity for certain content or games is of course one of the main ways that PlayStation and Xbox compete, with the companies basically shelling out tons of cash to secure timed exclusives for their platforms, and a recent example of this is of course in Hogwarts Legacy, hence Phil Spencer's comments. However, slightly debatable, as the exclusive content for PlayStation that Hogwarts Legacy actually has is only a timed exclusive, specifically for 12 months. But even with that said, I personally hate exclusives in video games, as it definitely sucks the fun out of it, especially since the PlayStation mission is said to be one of the best in the game. So good that PlayStation players actually feel a little guilty and basically deemed it unfair that they only have access to it. Now that says a lot. Now, since a lot of people have begun completing the game, a lot more flaws are being shown in the end game content. For example, a couple wasted over 2 hours trying to open a locked chest for something they did not expect. Now, the post says the following: "My girlfriend plays as a Slytherin, and after 35 hours playing in the game, she finally wanted to find out what was in the level 3 chest that is hidden behind the statue in the common room. We were both so excited about what could be in it. We finally got to the level 3 Alohomora after hunting down the statues for hours. When we finally were opening the chest, I made a joke that instead of some awesome new Slytherin robe, it would actually be some lame gloves. Guess what it was? Brown leather gloves. We both turned to each other almost in shock and then just laughed for 5 minutes straight. They need to rework the chest and basically not make every single one random. What a huge disappointment that chest was." Now, here's the thing. it's not just something that specifically is happening with Hogwarts Legacy, and to be quite frank, I think one thing that we can all agree with right now is, since a lot of people have been completing the game, it is clear that there are definitely some underlying problems in the game that are very questionable. For example, like the chest, and actually doing so many quests to realize, okay, well, it may have not actually been worth doing that at all. And of course, another thing that has been popping up more recently is specifically the Merlin's quest, and how a lot of people really, in the nicest way possible, just consider it to be a waste of time, because of course you do so much, and it actually takes, I think somebody totaled the amount of time that it actually takes in just the cutscenes alone, which rounded up to something like 20 or 30 minutes, which is a huge amount of time, because of course that's just the cutscenes, that's not even taking into account actually doing the quest, and then the reward that you get at the end of it, let's be honest, isn't exactly something that is worth it. Now, we are very much so in what I'm going to call a drought season now for the game. Now, what I mean by that is nothing new is going to happen for the game. Now, of course, the other day we found out that they are doing something that seems to be very interesting, because we found out some files were updated, and it basically just hinted towards some sort of big update coming very soon. But we are in March, and not every single person has this game yet, and I'm talking specifically about the last gen consoles. Now, I completely understand why they delayed the last gen consoles off, of course, well, should we say the last gen consoles version of this game, because of course they had to prioritize the new gen, but at the same time, even with that being said, there were probably so many limitations with the last gen consoles that they needed that extra time. But at the same time, it's a good thing that they are still releasing it on those consoles, because again, it's about making the game accessible to every single person, and people who are not casual gamers but that just randomly want to jump in and of course experience Hogwarts Legacy, so it makes total sense. However, I think it is pretty clear as day right now that it may be holding quite a lot of things back, and it's a conversation that I've had with a lot of people more recently, which is what happens after they release it now on the PlayStation 4 and of course Xbox One, etc., and they go ahead and release new things in the game. So for example, new updates and new content in the game. Will every single content be released on all platforms at the same time? Now that's a very big thing for me, because ideally what I don't want to see in the future is one console, or should we say one player base, takes a big hit because they need to delay things. I think it'd only be fair that if they go ahead, and it seems very likely that we're going to get some sort of big DLC in the very near future, that it rolls out to all platforms at the exact same time, or they just go ahead and delay it until they can release it at the same time to, of course, every single platform. The only reason I say that is because it would basically then just avoid any time delays for both player bases, and everyone gets the content at the same time, and of course experiences the same thing at the same time. But I'm keen to know your thoughts on this, so let me know in the comment section below. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, there was some very big news, because someone found that in the Steam files, they updated two specific folders, and the folders are very important because it does mean something is going on specifically in the background with what the devs are working on that could very much hint towards a very big update coming very, very soon. So check out that video that you see on screen right now.